Alright, so this is losers finals. What's going on?
Too bad.
Clover versus Dan, 8116. I have to know what that was. I mean, maybe I don't have to know, but like, what was that? Anyway, both players are building some form of stairs. Just put the yellow on top and you can still get that. That's a 4 from Clover. It's a pretty solid 4 from Clover. Dan also has a 4. It's a more explosive 4 though. Like, Dan feels like they're graduating out of this bracket a little bit, you know? Like, pace is picking up, chains are getting longer, fighting instincts are getting a little bit more refined. You know? Silas just felt completely out of place. Ah, man. Clover didn't have that garbage there they would have had an all clear. But unfortunately, to get an all clear, your board needs to be all clear. They do have Dan pretty high up, but Dan's got some really efficient digging. Unfortunate garbage placement. I wouldn't have wanted to place that there either. Dan's hitting Clover with the stun lock. Clover's got the 2-chain response though. Hopefully that blocks off that little yellow. There we go. Not ideal place for Dan to be, but they dig it out with a good 2-chain. However, they don't have access to the main chain because that green's not going to connect down there. I'm going to opt to cut that with a power 3. It's been 2 minutes, so that power 3 is going to be really powerful, and that's going to get Clover. Like, talk about a difficulty spike. Like, what did I just see? What did I just see? I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about that other match. So that didn't connect all the way down for Dan. But they did block the rock, so they live. Clever knowing they have a 2-chain follow-up there. Dan able to reconnect to the rest of their chain. It's a 5. That's gonna get them.
Too bad.
So Clover builds like really neat stairs close to the beginning of the match. It's just I would like to see them take the stairs form and be able to extend on it a little bit. And do you want to hear something weird that helped me actually? Is watching the score attack people who play like Puyo Puyo 2 for like the Sega Genesis, watching them play. Put the yellow down, put the purples in, and that's a 5-chain. Paying a lot of attention to Clover's board. Didn't even notice that Dan had a 6. So I'm like, Dan8116 had a 6-chain. I'm like, that's a lot of numbers. That was the mindset. Dan's attacks are generally faster and stronger. I like the 2-chain at the top, but it's not going to be enough. Stan's got the 3.
Too bad.
Okay, I'm gonna say something controversial, but like, Juice exposing Clover's entire game plan to the Puyo playing public is kind of is kind of messed up, because now she can't take anybody off guard. Oh, but we do have a block off. Dan has access to a 2-chain if he can get those reds out, but he blocks them off with the blue. And that's game for Clover.
So I won.
You know, it's in people's nature to root for the underdog. I like the mixing in of like 2-2 stairs and 3-1 stairs. It's a very strong early attack. Blocks off those blues. It's forcing Dan to respond early. Yeah, Dan got really lucky, didn't get those blues blocked off. So they get the 4-chain off. I think Clover might want to lower that column of 3 a little bit. It's a very, very powerful 3. Dan just generally had more resources on the board to be able to respond to attacks. Well, whoever wins this match faces off against Silas and Grands, which, I'm not gonna lie, if I were them, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to do that either. Looks like Dan wasn't ready for that attack.
So I won.
So I think the next step up to help Clover manage, although that's a great cleanup, manage their pieces a little bit better, is to start doing some sandwich form. Although, if you pop those yellows, that is an all clear. Just set something off. Oh! You really don't want Dan to be able to dig that. And so, not capitalizing quickly enough on that all clear is what gave Dan the ability to be able to dig back down, because if it had been a 1-2 blitz, it's not likely that they would have been able to recover. I like that 2-chain. Although it might be, you know, maybe I might not be accounting for hand-eye coordination. That is something that you do have to get used to. Placing the pieces down with precision is a skill. Definitely getting into some margin time, so the attacks are going to start mattering a little more. We have a 3-chain. 5-chain from Dan. Essentially, a 5-chain is the main chain at this level.
Too bad.
I have some mucus starting to form because I've been yapping. It's because I was like crying and screaming at the winners finals match. Unfortunately, the yellow's not on the right column for that to be an all clear. But the stun lock is good. It's gonna force them to dig harder. If you put the blue on top of the red... still going for stairs. Blue on top of the red would have made sandwich. I feel like that is the next... Unlucky placement, but not the worst thing in the world. They're gonna have to pop that red. They do have a red at the top to bring down... I'm sorry, I'm talking about Dan. Dan's build has a red at the top to be able to set off the stairs chain. Dan being able to get to 6 chains using stairs is showing that they understand a little bit about transitions. Dan's transitions are very, very messy, but they're transitions nonetheless, and they enable you to chain higher. Again, that high column 3. It's a very dangerous play. Sits up 2. I would have extended on the back end with a red, but... So Dan seems to be taking their entire first column, leaving it open. So in case anything happens, they can still access the front end of their chain. And so Dan is kind of throwing things off to the column 6 to hope that they pop down. That's right, that's right. So that they can still access it. So yeah, so Dan has no choice but to set that off because that would block. And they got off the 6 chain. I think Clover has a 5 in the all clear. If they live that, and then they have the instant response, that's gonna set off half of, and we are in mid-game. Now, unfortunately, getting an all clear with garbage. I already said this, but you know. Dan does not have the space to respond to that. Opens that up with the lucky blue placement. And the 2 chain is going to snatch that out from underneath them. I'm sorry, do I sound distracted? I might be. I'm having a little difficulty focusing because I have a mouth ulcer beating my ass. If Clover focused up on those reds, they'd have to elevate that purple by...
So I won.
Oh, that was fast. I was going to say they have to elevate that purple by 1 row and then put some reds at the end and they could have an extension there. But the fast 3 was enough to catch Dan. If there's one thing about Clover, though, one thing that I noticed that they are doing is watching. That's kind of the crux of their whole thing. It's paying attention to the opponent's board and catching them off guard. Dan has that left side open, like I said, to be able to access the rest of their chain. And that's a very high column 3, so the 2 chain's just gonna get them.
Too bad.
Congrats to Dan. Congrats to Clover. I believe Clover gets 3rd place off losing in losers finals. But yeah.